Welcome to Smash Fiction, the podcast where I'm sure I'll completely forget how the hell it introduced this thing and won't care. This week is the I Want to Suck Your Blood edition with the vampire slayer herself, Buffy Summers, versus a half vampire himself, Blade. Welcome to News for Ratu, your worldwide source for supernatural news. Our top story tonight.
Oh, it's going to be one of those nights.
Our top story tonight. A string of horrific vampire attacks have hit a group of nightclubs in Vienna, Austria. Local investigators have been left puzzled as to the nature and whereabouts of the attackers. Luckily, we have reports that the famous Buffy Summers and Blade have been sighted conducting investigations on their own in order to discover and eliminate the otherworldly attackers. Preliminary reports from the hunters suggest that the famous vampires Lestat, Victor, and Marcus are behind the attacks, but further investigation is required in order to determine the other vampires responsible for them. The famous hunters have tracked the suspects to a remote Austrian village, replete with tunnels, cottages, and a small fortress. Who will successfully wade into the dark and leather-suited world of the vampire coven that's been terrorizing the countryside? It would totally be me, but since I'm not a choice, I, Liz Logan, have to pick who would be the next best. Prior to the episode, the advocates have discussed and agreed upon that they will only use Blade from the movies and Buffy from the TV series. Representing Buffy are Dan Mulcairn.
You may be dead, but I'm still pretty.
And Brad Boltman.
That'll put marzipan in your pie plate. Bingo!
All right. And representing Blade are Colin Mulcairn.
Look at you. You're kids. You're not ready to roll with this. I mean, look at the way you're dressed. What, is that supposed to be tactical? You think this is a joke? You think this is a fucking sitcom?
And Miles Schneiderman.
You obviously do not know who you are fucking with!
All right. In order to determine who will be going first, the combatants participated in a who can kill the most sparkling humanoids that have absolutely nothing to do with the enemies in this battle contest.
Ooh, me!
And
me! Pick me!
The winner was Team Buffy. Team Buffy, you have the floor.
That's all right. In that contest, we're all winners. If I were to introduce you to Buffy and Blade by showing you pictures of them and telling you that they were vampire hunters, you might look at Buffy and think, well, she's lithe and petite. She's probably the more acrobatic and agile of the two, while you might conclude that the muscular and armored Blade is stronger and tougher. Well, you'd be half right. Buffy is indeed faster and more agile than Blade, but she's also way stronger. Blade's enhanced physical abilities come from the quasi-vampirism that crept into his bloodstream, giving him certain vampiric qualities without most of the weaknesses. Buffy's enhanced physical abilities come from some serious magical mojo designed to make her the physical superior to any vampire. She's stronger, faster, tougher, and a better fighter. Buffy objectively has the advantage over Blade in any sort of physical contest. And boy, is Buffy strong. She's able to bend the steel barrel of a rifle with one hand. She lifts an iron portcullis that a group of men working together couldn't budge. She can bench press steel construction girders. She's able to pick up enemies and fling them with little apparent effort. And at one point, she accidentally destroys a building while having sex. There's also a reason that Blade wears armor and Buffy doesn't. Blade needs it. Buffy has been hit by cars, shrugged off taser blasts, fallen multiple stories, and recovered very quickly from almost total blood loss. Not needing armor means that Buffy won't be slowed down in a fight, which is bad news for Blade, because not only is Buffy stronger than him, she's a lot faster too. Her reflexes are fast and precise enough that she can catch the blades of swords that are swung at her, catch crossbow bolts in midair, trigger bear traps without getting caught in them, and she once was able to outrun a motorcycle. Buffy is amazing in unarmed combat, but she's also a master of many different types of weapons, including swords, axes, maces, crossbows, and, in one instance, a rocket launcher. But her most amazing weapon is the Scythe, a magical weapon on par with Excalibur. This bladed weapon is a magical battery, which one-shots even the toughest vampires, and its overall design perfectly complements Buffy's fighting style, becoming an extension of herself that she is able to wield with absolute ease. Blade's version of vampires are the lamest. In addition to all of the weaknesses that Buffy's vampires possess, they're also vulnerable to silver and garlic. And boy, are they vulnerable. The slightest touch of silver and they just dissolve. At the end of the day, though, Blade's vampires are just fighty men. Strong, fast, and tough, but that's about it. Even Blade's version of Dracula is just a strong, tough, fighty man, albeit one that can turn into a stronger, tougher, uglier fighty man. Buffy's vampires are shown to have much deadlier powers, particularly when they get older. Mind control, clairvoyance, shapeshifting, and magic, and Buffy still manages to take them out by the truckload. Blade will be totally unprepared for the wide variety of bloodsucker on display during this contest, and by the time he manages to get his feet under him, Buffy will be brushing the dust of the head vampire off her shoulders and give some Joss Whedon quip that nerds the world over will be posting on their Facebook profiles for years to come. Brad.
All right, thank you. Good start. Buffy is the Slayer. Faith is a Slayer, the Potentials have Slayer abilities, but Buffy is the Slayer. Blade is, a vampire hunter, I guess, but she is the best. She is the only. It is literally her destiny to fight back the forces of evil. Blade is just a pissed off, brooding kid with a vendetta against the guys that bit his mom, and his moves are so last season. Buffy is faster, stronger, and most importantly, smarter than Blade. She'll be able to deal with more capable threats with more versatility and effectiveness. Buffy is highly trained and methodical. In almost every episode, she is hit with a new and unique threat. She assesses the threat, finds a solution, and takes it out. She sees, she plans, she destroys. With Buffy, you only ever see about 20% of what she's thinking and is capable of. With Blade, what you see is what you get. That's why he's easily outsmarted and outmaneuvered by his quote-unquote allies and his enemies alike. Blade can fight plenty of drugged-up, dancing freshman vamps. Sure.
Sorry. Go ahead.
What? Why are you laughing?
But as soon as he faces someone with a plan, God forbid a group of capable vamps working together, he's history. Buffy remains, now and forever, the Vampire Slayer.
All right, it's time to go to the other B, Blade.
Colin, you're starting, right?
Yeah, I'm starting. once everybody quiets down.
I thought that was your guys' argument at first.
Blade.
That's not... All right.
Blade.
First of all, let it never be said that we do not have mad respect for Buffy Summers. She is a legitimate badass of the first degree, and we love her as a character, but when it comes to vampire slaying, Blade totally outclasses her in just about every category. The opening scene of Blade is ridiculous. He walks in through the front door of a giant secret vampire nightclub packed with over 100 vampires, and the vast majority of them scream, freak out, and run away. These are vampires, horrible, powerful monsters. They outnumber him 100 to 1, and they are still so scared shitless of this one-man army that they don't even try to fight him. As for the ones that remain, Blade is able to cut through them like a max-level MMO character that decided to go back to a level 1 dungeon for a laugh.
Are we doing MMO instead of D&D now? Is that the way it's gonna go?
It's all on the table. It's all on the table, man. This is not the end of our knowledge.
I'm okay with that.
Pretty much no one ever touches him, no one survives more than one hit from him, and he never misses. In terms of agility, Blade is also able to catch swords with his bare hands, something that the Mythbusters proved is impossible, even for a robot that Grant built with superhuman reflexes. When someone tries to ride him down with a motorcycle, he leaps in the air and lands behind the dude and garrote wires his head off. He is able to jump with ease from skyscraper to skyscraper across giant multi-lane downtown city streets. And in terms of strength, he is shown to be able to break out of restraints of various types, like when he is chained in heavy metal restraints in a police station in Blade Trinity, and he's also able to grab onto a speeding train and pull himself aboard it. He is able to dodge bullets, and he is able to kill just about any vampire he meets in a single shot. And when he doesn't want to kill his targets, like when he's fighting human police officers, he's skilled at keeping them in place or hurting them where he wants to go with suppressive fire. In terms of stealth, he's able to drop down from the ceiling of a warehouse from 20 feet up in the air and land directly behind someone completely silently. There is not a single sound effect made, and the person that he lands behind has no idea that he is there. And when he is briefly unarmed in Blade 2, he is able to defeat 26 assailants dressed in riot gear in a row with his bare hands. I counted. 26.
Yeah, Buffy might be the Slaymaster General of her own universe, but if Blade ever showed up in Sunnydale, there wouldn't be any vampire covens hanging around to hatch ill-conceived plots against the Scooby Gang. There would just be a bunch of abandoned cellars and warehouses covered in thick carpets of ash. There are a number of arguments for this, but the only one we really should need is his arsenal, which, in scientific terms, is fucking ridiculous. His primary weapon is his sword, whose blade is made of titanium and etched with acid. He has a titanium acid sword, people. That's like at least another D8's worth of extra damage. Buffy is proficient in swordplay in a big way, but she's never had a personalized weapon like this one.
Actually, she has, Miles.
Well, you know what? Fuck
She
you.
does.
Colin, you could have said something when you were reading that over earlier today. Just saying. Could have might have mentioned. Yeah. Also, while Buffy is an extremely skilled martial artist and hand-to-hand combatant, she does not use guns. And this is a trait that Blade most assuredly does not share. He has tons of guns, from shotguns to semi-autos, and most of them can shoot silver stakes that spell high-velocity death for vampires. Many of his firearms are equipped with ultraviolet light beam projectors, and he also has ultraviolet light grenades. He makes excellent use of the anticoagulant EDTA, which works on vampires in a highly explosive manner. Oh, and he has an extendable knife on the end of a cable like Ivy from fucking Soul Calibur, and perhaps the coolest of all, a double-bladed silver-throwing boomerang glaive thing, which he frequently uses to cut down whole groups of vampires in a single throw. And Blade, as you mentioned, Dan, is also much more heavily armored than Buffy has ever been, both against vampires and against much more mundane threats like, bullets. In the first film, a group of cops unload their pistols into his chest, and he doesn't even flinch. Instead, he just says, "Motherfucker, are you out of your damn mind?" Despite this, and despite the fact that vampires are almost never shown actually getting through his armor, it doesn't slow him down at all, contrary to your completely specious claims. He is as quick and agile in the armor as he is outside it. Buffy wears, jeans and a cute top. Don't let Cordelia get you down, Buff. It's adorable. And he has a souped-up car with ultraviolet headlights. Boom!
Also, real quick, he has vigilance. That's right. Attacking does not cause Blade to tap, and I'll tell you why. Ron Perlman points, or whatever his character is, points a gun at Blade from across a club when Blade is standing with his arms folded, not looking at him, and so a laser sight appears on Blade's chest. A second
His name
later,
is Reinhardt, Colin. Just
Reinhardt,
so you know.
that's the
His
one.
name is Ron Perlman.
Yes.
His name is Hellboy.
A second later, a laser sight appears on Hellboy's chest. We see that without Blade turning his head, uncrossing his arms, or seemingly moving at all, one of his hands is now holding a gun that is pointing back at Hellboy, meaning that, or I guess pointing back at the sheriff from Desperation, meaning that he is either capable of drawing a gun without appearing to move at all, or he's just always holding a gun in one of his hands just in case.
More likely, in Blade's case.
The biggest area in which Blade has an edge over Buffy, though, is his dedication to being a vampire hunter. Buffy tries to quit being the Slayer so many times over the course of the series, and the only reason that she keeps doing it is because she's the chosen one and doesn't have a choice. If she doesn't do it, the world's going to end, and she doesn't want the world to end, so she, kind of reluctantly slays vampires, but her eyes are always on the door. In her own words, and I quote, "All I want to do is graduate high school, go to Europe, marry Christian Slater, and die." Compare this to Blade, who, when told by Dr. Karen Jensen that she has developed a cure for vampirism that will make him human again, he wouldn't need his blood replacement serum anymore, but he would lose all of his superpowers, he responds, quote, "You keep your cure, there's still a war going on, and I have a job to do. You want to help? Make me a better serum." Or compare how Buffy reacts to her mother's death with how Blade reacts to the death of his surrogate father and only friend in the world, Whistler. Buffy reacts like a normal person would. Her mother dying destroys her world. She is understandably depressed for a long time and still has a ton of friends. Blade is a cold killing machine, such a cold killing machine that when he learns that Whistler has been infected by vampirism, he gives Whistler a gun so that he can kill himself, walks away, hears the gunshot, and his face remains unchanged. It's not that he doesn't care that Whistler is dead, he cares a great deal, but it doesn't affect his job. He goes right back to killing vampires because that is what Blade does.
So now, I definitely want to hear some discussion about this. Commence the rebuttals between Blade and Buffy! Go ahead, Buffy.
Buffy! Blade! Doom! Doom!
So says Doom.
I really hope I have enough time to get through all of the objections that I have to pretty much every sentence that came out of your guys' mouth.
Well, since it was the last thing that they talked about, I would love to address this whole dedication issue, which I found very curious that they pointed out as a strength in Blade's case, because in fact it blinds him into the rest of his life. He is so single-sightedly out for vengeance against all vampires that he has no creativity in any of his plans. He charges in with no plan, guns blazing, and just tries to kill as many people as he can in one way, which is why he inevitably ends up captured and has to be saved by humans, like Karen in the first movie. And like the other vampire hunters, the Night Stalkers in the third movie, when he's captured by the fucking cops. So Blade gets himself captured a lot because he has no plan. Buffy approaches the situation with a cool head. She approaches it like a job, just like Blade does, except she treats her job like a normal person, and she goes home and has friends and family and a life outside of that. She's still very effective at her job.
Like an extracurricular activity she doesn't want to go to.
Yeah, so this,
like her mom signed her up for ballet lessons, and she's not really that into it.
And yet she's the best at it.
So this reluctance that you guys are talking about goes away by season 3, yo. Like, there's a reason that quote that Miles gave about her mentioned that she was in high school. That was because that was when she was in high school. Before the end of season 3, right around the time that Faith rolls around, Buffy is completely dedicated to her role as the Slayer, but goes into it without the sort of single-minded, blinding fanaticism that Blade shows to his own mission.
I'm pretty sure there's a couple times throughout the series where she does that. I think there was one later. I don't have it in front of me, sorry. In terms of this situation, single-minded fanaticism is really helpful. We're just killing a bunch of vampires. Most of the time that you point to when Blade gets captured, he's able to break out at any time, and he just doesn't because he's biding his time. There's the time in the first one where he gets captured by Quinn, and he breaks out later. He's just waiting for Whistler to show up with backup, but he could break out at any time. And when Scud, his tech expert in Blade 2, reveals that he's a traitor, and that the bomb that he made for Blade is a dud, Blade reveals that he knew that Scud was a traitor all along, and that he fixed the bomb so that it was not a dud, and then he detonates that bomb, killing Scud.
Miles, etched with acid refers to how the sword is carved and engraved. It doesn't mean that the sword deals acid damage.
I was making a joke, for God's sake.
Just throwing that out there. Here's the thing. So Buffy doesn't use guns because they don't work on any vampire that's worth their salt. Blade's guns work on his vampires because his vampires are weak against silver. That is not a weakness that the vast majority of vampires from any mythology share.
And Buffy's wooden stakes probably wouldn't do anything against the vampires from Blade's universe because they're not weak against getting stabbed through the heart or anything.
In the first movie,
we don't know what kind of vampires we're fighting here, buddy.
That's actually my point. So Buffy has fought and defeated a ton of monsters aside from vampires. In addition
74 demons.
74 demons. In addition to the so-called uber vampires that she fights, which are vampires that are faster, stronger, and immune to staking, she's taken on and taken down demons, zombies, trolls, werewolves, fishmen, robots, wizards, super soldiers, giant mantises, other slayers, and gods.
I love Dan's
real quick,
list. It happens every episode.
Real quick. Gods is the Smash fiction equivalent of Nazis. If you bring it up, you lose. You cannot do this. I almost did it in our argument, and I didn't.
But it's the truth. It's the truth.
Well,
Season 5, sir.
Blade takes down a god
Blade
too,
is a
dude.
vampire god. Deacon
I don't care about your petty arguments about other creatures other than vampires.
This is my point, Your Honor. These vampires each have a different set of strengths and weaknesses, and it is the vampire hunter who is more versatile that will be able to determine which strengths and weakness each individual vampire has and be able to take them down that much more quickly and more efficiently. Buffy has head and shoulders over Blade in that matter.
I pose this question to both sides. How quickly could your character pick up how to kill something they've never seen before?
Buffy does it every single episode of Buffy. Anytime she runs
every
into a
single
new...
time she kills another vampire?
No, every time she... Did you not hear my list? Would you like me to go through my list again, sir?
No, don't do that, for God's sake.
Go ahead, Blade.
Blade has to adapt to killing multiple new types of vampires over the course of the Blade movies.
When
he meets the Reapers in Blade 2, who are immune to silver and garlic, and they can only be killed by sunlight because they also regenerate. And so he has to adapt, and that's when he starts, utilizing all of his ultraviolet light weapons and stuff like that, and tricking them to going into sunlight.
To add to that point, Colin, the team of vampires that he's with, the highly trained team that's been training to hunt him, get fucking destroyed by the Reapers the first time they encounter them. Blade kicks some ass.
And
Continue.
also, Deacon does a ritual on himself in Blade 1 that takes away just about all of his vampiric weaknesses. He's able to regenerate instantly. After Blade cuts him in half with a sword, he regenerates in less than a second. And Blade
he becomes a vampire blood god. I mean, he does do that.
I wasn't trying to use the word. This was the part. But anyway. And Blade adapts by instead injecting him full of a bunch of the EDTA serum. That's the only thing that can still hit him, the anticoagulant, and makes him explode.
Yeah. Okay, I am very satisfied with both teams' answers. You may continue on further rebuttals.
I have a couple more points that I want to make. So first of all, Buffy regularly takes on highly trained enemies that are better armed and way more numerous and wins. So she takes down groups of demons in countless episodes, but of particular note in the episode Anne, where she takes on a room of demons while defending innocent humans from those same demons. In the episode Spiral, she's unarmed. She takes on a group of elite knights, all armed and armored, as they attack her on top of a speeding RV. She takes down all of them. Now, Blade, as you've pointed out, looks plenty badass when he's taking out a room of, basically defenseless ravers at the start of the first movie. But, and this is true, if you watch the movies, in almost half of the fights of that movie, anytime he fights vampires who actually know how to throw a punch, he gets his butt summarily handed to him. And the reason is, in most of the fights in the movie, the enemies fight him as though they were fighting Bruce Lee, which is to say they attack him one at a time. They do so rather quickly, I'll grant you, but you can pause the movie during any fight scene and see a line of 4 or 5 vampires just waiting for their turn. Buffy regularly gets into a fight where 5 or 6 demons pile onto her, and she's able to defeat all of them simultaneously. The only time that Blade's enemies actually fight the way a mob of enemies should, he gets beaten.
In that case, how do you explain the fact that every time Buffy goes up against a vampire one-on-one, then she takes her sweet time? They trade karate kicks for like 10 minutes before she finally pulls her stake out.
Because
this does not happen every single time.
And the other thing is,
every time there's only one there does. Like every time she's just randomly patrolling in a cemetery and a vampire pops out, it takes like 15... It takes 15 minutes for her to kill the damn thing, and usually she needs help from her friends.
Because her vampires don't die from a single touch of silver the way Blade's do. Her vampires are a lot stronger and require a greater deal of attention, the way a lot of the vampires that they're going to be fighting today will.
It's because she doesn't use guns. Blade would just have, if he was in Buffy's world, he would have an automatic stake-shooting Gatling gun that he would just mow them down with.
Blade uses stakes too, he just puts them in firearm form and is much more effective that way. The vampires that he fights are not necessarily weaker than the vampires Buffy fights. Blade is just more efficient at dispatching them.
He would still have to hit them directly in the heart in order to kill them.
Which he doesn't have to do with the silver.
Correct.
He's shown to be a master marksman at many times throughout it. I'm sure he could adapt to that.
There's also no guarantee that the UV light that he uses will work on vampires. Now, that's the way it works on his vampires. But vampires are said to be vulnerable to sunlight. Now, sunlight is composed of a lot of different spectra of electromagnetism. So any combination of it, or even the full combination that makes up sunlight, is probably what actually kills vampires and not just one particular frequency of that electromagnetic radiation.
Neither of us know what kind of vampires we're fighting here. This argument that you're applying toward us could just as easily be applied back toward you, and Blade has a huge arsenal full of a variety of weapons. One of them is going to work.
Here's the major difference, though. Blade has got all of his arsenal from outside sources. Buffy is resilient in and of herself. She knows how to do the research. She has been trained by Giles to be independent in this effort. She does not need her team. She can function independently. Her team is great. The Scooby Gang is amazing and helpful, but
pretty sure she needs them a lot.
She uses them a lot. She likes them to feel included, but she can do it on her own. She has all these skills. Blade, He says it himself. We have a good arrangement. He makes the weapons and I use them. Blade is the arm of the operation, not the head.
Okay, well, he doesn't need to make any weapons in this scenario. He just needs to use his weapons.
He does if his weapons don't work.
Okay, well, vampires in Vampire the Masquerade can't be killed by staking. If we end up fighting Vampire the Masquerade vampires, then Buffy's not going to do anything.
She'll make something else.
Yeah, she's
own.
awfully good with cutting off heads, as she does to demons who are also immune to staking.
Order! We're starting to go into circles. Little vampire circles.
All right.
Any final points?
Yeah, we didn't. I mean, obviously, I'm not going to sit here and ask for our rebuttal time because we were talking about as much as they were.
Yeah.
But I just want to point out one thing. There's one thing that Buffy has done multiple times that Blade has never done, and that's die. And she is shown, your comment earlier about her lack of faith in being the Slayer going away by season 3. After her death, that shit comes back in some serious ways. If you're using Buffy from the later seasons, you have to also include that traumatized aspect of her character, because at one point in her career, she wasn't good enough to stay alive.
Yeah, but she does get over that by the end of season 6.
Also, she willingly sacrificed herself. She wasn't like killed because she lost control of the situation. She had
still
to do
died.
it to save the world.
Yeah, she threw
And-
herself into an interdimensional portal, which I would imagine Blade would also do if his world was in danger.
Blade would find a way to do it that
Buffy's-
doesn't involve him
yeah.
dying.
Yeah, Blade saves the world like in every Blade movie and doesn't have to die to do it.
Yeah, because his allies die. Buffy did it to save her sister.
Well
Blade
said,
lets
sir.
his friends die for him.
Yeah, great. That's not a problem.
All right.
You want to go into all Buffy's friends who have died? I got a list.
Order! That was really good. All right. Good stuff. Good stuff, guys. So now it's time for the lightning round.
Goodness me.
We have actual sound effects now.
Yeah, sound effects.
All right. You guys are going to hate me for this, and I am sorry.
Oh boy.
God.
Welcome, combatants, to an alternate dystopian universe. A universe where the previous sparkling humanoids have become pop cultural icons and supermodels. Both Buffy and Blade have been transported from the present to this new timeline in order to stop the madness. The only problem is vampire slaying has changed. The old wooden steak and garlic nonsense doesn't work anymore. Only modeling does.
What?
What?
As they arrive in this new place, they are contacted by an enigma. A man famous for Blue Steel, Le Tigre, and Magnum. That's right. Derek Zoolander is
Am I having a fever
establishing...
dream or is this the
He's so hot right now.
You are.
Derek Zoolander himself is establishing his school for vampire slayers who can't kill vampires good and want to model good too. In order to defeat these new enemies, Buffy and Blade must become high fashion icons! How will they dispatch the sparkly humanoids? What outfit will your combatant have? What will be the name of their signature look? Who is in their posse? And what is their favorite flavored coffee drink? Blade
What
goes
in
first.
God's name is happening.
You may have a moment.
I'm gonna fucking need it. Well, I mean, the first thing I want to say, and I'll kind of start, Colin. You can kind of jump in when you got something, because this is
Yes.
about as out of left field as it gets.
Nope.
Yeah.
I never expected you to outdo your Mean Girls lightning round.
Yeah, no, neither did I. Neither did I, but you totally did. Blade is not hard to look at, you know what I mean? He's a good-looking man. He's got cut, hardened slab of man body there, all right? That's what we're talking about here. That dude comes up with so many excuses in his movies to get his shirt off.
Not enough.
You can
as
see
far as I'm
everything.
concerned.
Yeah,
Hold on, hold
definitely
on.
Not enough.
Let me just write down slab of man body.
Right. I believe that's from Archer, so that makes yet another episode where
All right, continue.
I don't know if I can.
Okay, I'll take it away. I'll take it away. In terms of fashion, Buffy is a follower. All of the clothing that she wears, you can see it's similar to like just the normal stuff of her time. But Blade has always been on the vanguard of fashion, wearing trench coats a year before the Matrix came out.
Totally before they were cool.
Yeah, and the sunglasses, all that stuff. And I
Sunglasses inside and at night. Yeah.
Yep, you know he's on the cutting edge of fashion.
And you know what? He doesn't even have the disadvantages that come from wearing one sunglasses at night, because he can still see just fine.
Yeah. I think that his look would be one that combines his dangerous side with his sweeter, more gentle side, and it would be called Child of the Night. And of course, Blade likes his coffee like he likes his nights: black, endless, and impossible to sleep through.
Absolutely. And his clothing line, by the way, like once the modeling thing is done, you know, he totally kills all the vampires with modeling. He starts coming out with a fashion line, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And that's absolutely the Daywalker fashion line.
And he updates his outfit from one movie to the next. I mean, by the second movie, he has a red lining on the inside of his trench coat.
That's
And by
true.
the third
Whoa.
one, he has a special buckle that he wears in his chest that has a little insignia that he didn't have in the other one. So he's like Madonna-ing himself all over the place in these movies.
Blade doesn't fuck around with like complicated color schemes and shit. It's pretty basic. It's black and red, but it's always effective.
Yeah.
And how would he destroy a sparkly humanoid?
by growling at it, and it would.
Yeah.
He's gonna bring something that to these fashion shoots that none of the sparkly vampires do, a sense of danger. He's a man that you would not want to bring home to your mother.
As soon as he gives the child of the night look, just the look to one of the sparkly vampires, they're gonna react like their heads have just been hit with that EDTA. All right, it just
Explosions of blood
and
all over the
blood
place.
everywhere. Also, you asked about his posse, Liz. Allow me to direct you to the film Blade Trinity, which is just so full of beautiful fucking people.
Ryan
It's
Reynolds,
unbelievable.
Jessica
Ryan
Biel,
Reynolds, Jessica Biel, absolutely.
Pat Oswalt.
Yeah.
Chris Christopherson. I mean, what's not to love?
Norman Reedus plays Scud in the second film. You got I forget the name of the actress, but Dr. Karen Jensen from the first one is super sexy. I don't care what anyone says. I mean, Buffy hangs out with a bunch of fucking nerds. Like, not for nothing. Nerds are our people. I love nerds. I'm one myself. But they can't compare in this particular contest to the gorgeousness of the people Blade is bringing to the table in his posse.
Picture Xander or Willow trying to walk down a runway, or Giles. I think that.
Oh God!
That
Especially late stage Xander, man, that guy let himself go.
All right, great stuff. Buffy.
So between Blade and Buffy, one of them tends to slink into the shadows when everything is done. The other one has a personal history of being obsessed with fashion and enjoying the spotlight. Buffy will take to modeling as a fish who has been out of water for 7 years and finally gets to return and remember what she was and get to combine
so
it.
a decayed fish.
Wait, so I was gonna say dead.
We're going to say
There's
an
mermaid!
modeling in a decayed fish.
Mermaid!
We're going to say an immortal mud skipper in this case. That's
Okay.
I believe that was Joss Whedon's original character concept for Buffy.
That makes more sense. I think he was, right to go with the second idea.
Sure.
Frankly.
Anyway, Blade is not used to having a lot of people look at him, with anything other than just abject horror. Buffy, on the other hand, is used to, walking into a room and having every eye turned toward her and then adjusting her pace just ever so slightly to make her that much more alluring and that much more appealing. Her outfit, I imagine, would actually be rather similar to the outfit that that Buffy wears in the movie, which is to say a, tight-fitting tank top, tight-fitting pants, and leg warmers. Because, in case you guys haven't noticed, the 90s are kind of coming back. Like, the 80s were back for a while, but, the 90s are really in fashion.
Why would you say horrible things?
Well, listen, I would love for trench coats to remain on top from now till the end of time. But it's just not happening. It's not gonna happen, and it's not happening now. The 90s, however, is coming back, and Buffy is perfectly poised to catch that wave. The name of her look, I'm imagining, is going to be Chosen One. Her coffee, as she mentions in the first episode of Buffy, she finds Frappuccinos to be, she says that they are trendy but tasty, I believe. So she would obviously go Frappuccino. And in terms of how she would kill the sparklies, so, okay, in Twilight, the vampires are not vulnerable to sunlight, however much UV you want to extract out of it. They are not vulnerable to wooden stakes. They are not vulnerable to garlic. They are not vulnerable to silver. Their skin, it is said, is supposed to be as tough as concrete, which is a problem for someone who's wielding a titanium sword and who's used to being able to kill vampires with a single touch of a silver bullet. It's less of a problem for a super strong warrior wielding a magic axe. I'm going to say decapitation is her choice of dispatching these enemies.
So
I
we
just want
can't
to say
we can't call upon weaknesses from the first few episodes, but we can call upon her favorite Frappuccino drink. I think you're setting the double standard, Dan. I think that would have changed by now.
Listen,
I just want to say
weaknesses change.
Okay.
Frappuccinos stay the same.
Yeah.
this isn't actually an argument or anything. I just want to say that I'm really okay with not knowing as much about Twilight as Dan clearly does.
Well, in all fairness,
I was surprised.
Was this a test to see if we?
At least one of us has a certain Wikipedia page open on his laptop at this very moment.
That's quick thinking, buddy.
That's right.
So, I was trying really hard not to call them vampires, and I was trying really hard not to say Twilight, and you all failed. You started calling them vampires and you started saying Twilight, I guess I gotta weigh that. Maybe, I don't know. So any other points?
Well, Brad has yet to go.
Apologies, Your Honor.
I do know one thing about the sparkly beings from the not yet mentioned teen novel, and that is that they are teen heartthrobs, and nobody knows teen heartthrobs like Buffy Summers. Countless people have fallen in love with Buffy Summers, and they always get their heart broken, and I think that's what's going to happen to these poor guys too. As soon as she gets those batty eyes and those pouty lips, they're just going to fall apart.
Hey, people fall in love with Blade too.
Yeah, and then he uses them as bait to trap vampires.
That's right.
Which he does in the first movie.
Also, her posse has some pretty good-looking people in it too. I don't think I have to mention Angel, who has gone on to make an entire career of looking good on TV. So he's pretty well done.
And that's all.
Yes. Allison Hannigan is cute, but Willow is awkward as hell, I would say.
That's so adorably
Have you seen her in her Halloween outfit?
Also, fashion is seasonal, and Buffy rocks fashions of all seasons. I would love to see Blade rocking a full trench coat and body armor in the summer in LA.
Blade would probably trade that out for a for sleeveless tank top body armor.
Yeah, I was really hoping like some swim trunks on Blade.
Yeah, no, I mean
Hawaiian shirt.
We see him occasionally just in his little like tactical vest and no trench coat, and he rocks that. He also wears like
I'm gonna go and decide this while you guys argue about your character's fashion sense. So I'll be right back.
You can't mock us talking fashion.
Continue. This is great. Please go on. I'll be back.
Buffy doesn't have any tattoos, dude. You know that shit goes over super well with the modeling set.
I've learned something interesting about myself watching all these Blade movies. I am incapable of telling the difference between Chris Christopherson and Jeff Bridges.
Can't do it.
Really?
Nope. It's impossible. They are the same person.
I occasionally thought it might be Nick Nolte, but yes.
Yeah.
No, I don't know. I've never
situations.
Yeah, that's exactly what it is.
Nah, because I can't say the same because I knew Chris Christopherson the second he showed up in that shitty Planet of the Apes remake.
Oh, see, I thought that was Jeff Bridges, so there you go.
No, that was totally
that was Nick Nolte.
No, that was Christopherson. Not like the Rise of the Planet of the Apes one. Those are good. The one before that.
I have to say, I really liked Chris Christopherson in The Big Lebowski, though. He really reads
it.
And when he was absorbing men.
Now you're just making it a thing.
Yeah.
When he was that homophobic dad in American Beauty. Oh no, that was Chris Cooper. Never mind. Listen, I'm only human. Okay, my vision is
a beard is a beard.
Yes.
I don't think my brain is capable of fully functioning after that lightning round.
Yes.
Yeah, I think a part of me just died in the last 10 minutes.
That actually is a good idea to have a modeling episode at some point. Are there any famous models apart from Derek Zoolander?
Well, we actually recently received an interesting suggestion from one of our fans.
Which one?
It's not a modeling one, but the match is Jareth the Goblin King versus Dr. Frank N. Furter.
Oh, nice.
Suggested by longtime fan Andy Spurlock, who has been giving us numerous really good suggestions, and that one particularly tickled me.
That's really awesome.
Given the fact that he pointed out that if we were to do that one, we could do our dueling David Bowie and Tim Curry impressions, which, man.
Oh my God.
Aspiring. That is catnip for an aspiring actor.
Oh, Andy, you're the man.
Yep.
That is a fantastic idea. I didn't see that one yet, but now I'm regretting we're not doing that one like tonight after this.
I know, right? Smash Fiction bonus episode right now.
All right. Well, so how is everyone's day? Liz seems to be thinking pretty hard about this one.
It was tough, man. Yeah. It was really
the only thing that I learned is that the writing in Buffy is superior to the writing.
Obviously. But as we have established, atrocious writing does not make a piece of evidence inadmissible.
Yeah.
First of all, Blade 2 is fucking awesome and better than anything I've ever seen on Buffy. So,
no. Not even.
I love Guillermo del Toro as much as the next man. I have all of his movies, but
second of all,
watch Hush. If nothing else, watch the episode of Buffy called Hush.
Oh no, Buffy has great writing, except for season 1, which is a horrible piece of shit.
Season 3 is when it gets good, officially.
Hold up.
Blade 2 is the best ever, and no one's gonna take that away from me because
Blade
it's
2 is
one of
where
my
it gets
favorite,
good.
one of my
And
single
where it
favorite
stops.
movies of all time. And I'm not saying that like tongue in cheek, like oh,
Okay.
like just one of my favorites. It's a great movie. That's like top 5.
Here we go. So what I've gleaned from this is that Blade is a killing machine and would probably make a gory mess at any fashion show he attended, while Buffy is very capable, adaptable, and a safe bet. With that being said, I think that mess could be art. Therefore, Blade wins.
Yes.
Yes.
Suck it, Mulcairn. Except I'm the one that wasn't on my side. The one that was on my side. Also.
Am I allowed to yell Doom in triumph? Because I really want to.
Blade? Dude.
It's not the same as Doom, but I'm not allowed to yell Doom in triumph. So
You're not allowed to yell Doom because you failed Batman, sir.
I did.
But you did a great job. You did a great job tonight, buddy. And
Yeah.
yes.
I wrote way too much for this episode, by the way. Miles saw I had so many notes, like because
It was
Blade is such a
unbelievable.
stupid Mary Sue. Like, yeah, it's just absurd.
Good
That
job,
was
guys.
really
Good
good.
job.
Likewise,
really
dude.
fun.
It honestly broke my heart to go against Buffy because I
Yeah,
love it.
when
and I love
we all wanted Buffy.
Yeah.
I don't know
Like
about
the
that,
odd
Miles,
Forgotten
but we all
Defender.
wanted Buffy.
You guys, good job on my lightning round from hell.
Yeah.
That was awesome.
I'm really impressed with your thinking on your feet, guys.
Liz, anytime you're judged now, like my bowels are just going to like shrivel up in anticipation on your lightning round.
We know 2 things about what happens when Liz is judged. 1, the intro is going to be different.
Yep.
And 2, the lightning round is going to be fucking insane.
Yep.
And I love it.
That's why,
I'm sorry.
that's why people keep tuning in, man.
That's
At
right.
least it wasn't space. I should have made it space.
It's like, all right,
Modeling
wait,
show in space.
Thanks for listening to this episode of Smash Fiction. Next week, Mike and Sully versus Mulder and Scully.
Smash Fiction is produced by Miles Schneiderman, with logo designed by Colin Mulcairn.
Special thanks to Kevin MacLeod for our theme song, which is called Hitman. You can find his work at www.incompetech.com.
You can follow the Smash Fiction podcast on Twitter at SmashFicPodcast and search for us on Facebook and Tumblr.
Subscribe on iTunes, and if you leave us a good review, we shall become more powerful than you can possibly imagine.
If you have any suggestions, feedback, or other contributions, send them to us at smashfictionpodcast@gmail.com and help us continue the fight.
Thanks for listening to this episode of Smash Fiction. Next week is Mike and Sully versus Mulder and Scully.
Can you say that one more time, Liz?
Thanks for listening to this episode of Smash Fiction. Next week, we have Mike and Sully versus Mulder and Scully.
Sell it. Come on.
Yeah, that
dude.
sucks.
Mike and
don't-
Sully
don't-
versus Mulder and
All
Scully.
right!
Don't,
Next week!
Just don't drop the.
Yeah, I'm
the
doing
end.
vocal fry. Yeah.
Yeah.
Thanks for listening to this episode of Smash Fiction. Next week, we have Mike and Sully versus Mulder and Scully. Was that better?
Put an exclamation.
I would. You know what I would do, Liz? You know what I would do when on the Mulder and Scully part? Emphasize Scully instead of Mulder.
Yeah.
Emphasize Sully
So-
and Scully. Yeah.
Rhyme scheme.
Mike and Sully versus Mulder and Scully.
Oh, yeah, that's better.
It'll also keep you from vocal frying.
I don't know why I'm doing that. I'm usually so animated. Ugh. How do you want me to say it again? I'm sorry.
Emphasis on Sully and Scully.
Thanks for listening to this episode of Smash Fiction. Next week, we have Mike and Sully versus Mulder and Scully.
You emphasize Mulder.
Did it again. You emphasize Mulder.
Mulder and Scully!
No. Mulder and
Mulder
Scully.
and Scully.
Mulder and Scully.
Say
Mulder and Scully!
Scully.
What? Honestly, I'm just gonna do that.
Liz, when you say Scully, punch the air.
Yeah.
Scully!
Yes.
Yes.
Just edit it from that, Miles. Mulder
Versus
and
Mulder and Scully.
Okay. Thanks for listening to this episode of Smash Fiction. Woo! Next week, we have Mike and Sully versus Mulder and Scully. That was brilliant. Keep